Hey guys, welcome back to some new episodes. Before beginning setting up the WebSocket chat, I thought it's better that we refactor and implement some features. Also, there was one query from one of my patrons, Atakan, about implementing retrying and token refresh feature within this VIPER and Alamo file router pattern, because I had implemented the same thing in one of my earlier projects using VIPER, which was called a Green Grocery, I guess. There, I had not implemented anything for a refresh mechanism on token when a token expires or something. So I guess right now I can take that up as one of the episodes where I can show you how to do that with the Alamo file. They have a great way of doing it using an interceptor. So that's what I will be showing in one of the episodes. So otherwise, so shout out to my patron Atakan and all my other patrons. And so I also thought I'll take that up in this one. So things that I'm gonna cover in these episodes are as follows. Maybe I can just give you a brief of what I'm trying to cover in some of the episodes that I'm capturing today. One of it is to modify. I need to modify the HTTP service for RX, which I had built, where I am having to always do a try whenever I'm making a request. So I'm gonna modify that a little bit, where I'm gonna include that try catch within a simple block wherever I'm doing an RX call for the request. So that is one thing I'm gonna do. Second thing is we don't have any ways to actually store the logged in or signed up users tokens as such. Couple of things comes back as a token response, like the token refresh token as well as the access token. I'm not capturing it, so I'm gonna just use today user defaults to store that, and on a subsequent fetch reload of the application, I can directly go to the chat rooms instead of going through that same login flow. So that's one of the things I'm going to do today. And third one being, it's better that you don't keep your users within user settings. It can be within a keychain or something, but then for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to just do it within user settings. Third thing is maybe I'm going to implement the chat room fetch API using Alamo Fire, and so we might need that is where I wanted this refresh token to happen, because uh, my token can expire, maybe like right now I had set it like to an hour or something, so my token gets invalidated like within an hour or something. So once I again relaunch the application at a later point, I won't see the chat rooms being populated, just because that my tokens are not valid anymore. So that's one reason I'm gonna having to implement this. So that's a great way for you to as well learn how to refresh your tokens with Alamo Fire. They keep updating their implementations, because earlier it used to be something called as refresh retryer or something along with an adapter. So request retryer, so they have even improved on it. So their documentations keeps updating, so even they have a new implementation. I have not covered that, but at least I have included their previous implementation where you can do a refresh as well as adapt to a request if you have to, let's say, send a request with a token like a bearer token or something. So that is something I'm going to implement in this the along with the chat rooms API. So that's going to happen. Also, I identified that when you are actually logging in or signing up and then go to the chat rooms, you log out, you need to come back to the landing page, or maybe at least the login page when you it's a login page ideally once you log out or something. So that logic as such, whatever I have implemented right now, it's not optimized using the ways it needs to be. So I have implemented in a way, or I'll show you how to even optimize or refactor that in a way that it works in a optimized way. So that's what I will be trying to do in one of the episodes, along after maybe I have done implementing the logout implementation. So that is what, once I have the chat rooms API implemented, I'm going to show you how to actually do a logout and then go back to the login screen. So that is where I have the refactorings which is being done. So that is one thing I'll take up. So finally is what I'll do, where I'm going to implement the request interceptor implementation for Alamo Fire, which is very interesting, because if you are not doing this as some kind of a middleware where every request, if you need to actually validate whether your token has already expired or not, then it's going to be like a code everywhere. You need to actually implement it along with all the requests that you are sending, which requires the token to be sent. So at least for all the chat room API requests, I need the token to be there. So it's better that you implement something like an request interceptor along with your request, so that it can actually intercept the request that is going out, and then if it has already invalidated with a 401 or something, then you can directly fetch your tokens and then make that retry for the earlier request which you had done. So it's a very interesting implementation. I'm going to do that maybe as a last one along with all the episodes that I'm going to cover today. So this is going to be the last episode for today, and after that we will take up or maybe start with the chat room implementation. So basically whatever we are going to try doing today is to implement this request retrial along with fetching and displaying all the chat rooms. I have created some chat rooms for display purpose, so that's what we are going to do today. So let's get started. So let's start the new episode. Whatever I'm gonna try doing now is to modify like the request format which I had mentioned I need to change. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. So this is what we have right now. I'm gonna just run it, see. So I have reduced the JWT tokens expiration to a great extent right now, because we might have to test that feature. So it might just expire like in 5 minutes. So this is what we have right now. We just load the rooms, also the profile which is logged in right now, and then what we are intending to do, things like showing all the chat rooms here, as well as implement the logout. And I also need, there's nothing right now at logout. On logout it needs to go back to the login screen. So for that I need to actually optimize things to an extent. Also, one of the things I'm gonna right now modify is to go to the service and make some changes to that. So this is my existing project. Go to my use cases, go to the account interactor, and if you can see, okay, not the account interactor, go to the services. Let's go easy services and then see the chat room HTTP services. So however we are right now calling it, this is a chat WebSocket, not that one. I want to actually see what's going on with the account service. Let's say that one. So we are embedding this try everywhere. I don't want to do that. Instead I'm gonna make a change, because everything is right now an RX request. So I want to change this request whichever goes to the service. So if I go to the service, as service, the base service, HTTP service, it is handled in this way, where I don't think this one. So we need to handle it for this one itself, where it is currently a throws. I want to change this and then handle it by sending an error response if it is actually throwing something. So that's what the change I'm going to do. So let me just verify so that I'm sure whatever I'm right now trying to do. Go to the HTTP router part. Yeah, so that's what I want to do. So I'm gonna get rid of this throw. So it's going to obviously give me an error because it's not handled. So instead I'm going to include a to try block return. So it's going to also ask for a catch. So if there is an error, I'm going to send a error. Observable comes with an error dot error as well. So I can just send that error across. This catch is going to grab hold of this error and then I can just send it across through this return observable. So this is always expecting to return an observable type. So observable error is also a type that you can send back. So with that change, right now this throws is I have gotten rid of this throws here. So the same, because of that change, it's going to trigger some changes over here, because it's now saying calls is not, there is nothing thrown, no calls to throw. So why do you have a throw try here? So I can just get rid of these tries. So if there is an error, we can always capture within a catch error block. We don't have it here, but wherever we are trying to catch it, we can catch it there. So this is now, I think that those are the only two calls we right now have. So that's gotten rid of. So that's the first thing I wanted to take up. Let me verify. Now we are going to actually save this into a user defaults. So whatever if let's say you are logging in, you don't have any mechanism to actually store your tokens. So let's do that. I'm going to create something called as user settings service. I'm going to create something called as a user settings service for that. So it's not the ideal way. Best way that you can do is to actually store it within the database, encrypted, like if you are using a realm or something, or you can even store it within a keychain. But for this tutorial sake, I'm just going to keep it within a user settings service I'm creating right now within the service layer itself. It's going to be exposed to all layers because it's just user settings. User settings can be accessed from anywhere, so I'm just going to keep it within the I'm just going to keep it within service, but exposed to anywhere it can be consumed. So even it will be consumed within the HTTP services layer. So I'm going to create that class called user settings service, and that's going to implement a protocol as well, public final class. So I'm going to create a protocol called user settings API, and this is going to be implemented by this one. So I'm going to just say extension user settings service is going to implement user settings API, and this is going to be a public protocol, and I'm going to include some functions over there. Function save tokens, just to save all your tokens. It's not going to return, maybe we don't need anything to be returned. And then get tokens, if you want all of the details of whatever you're stored as a token object, that you can actually do, actually have it here. And then I'm also going to have some properties defined. Let me check what all properties I had defined. I'm gonna have okay, tokens, and one more function to clear all the tokens. Let's say you are logging out, you need all the tokens to be cleared. That's the basic logout feature which you are going to implement, because server, if you don't have any tokens on your client side, that's enough to actually say you have logged out of your device. So that's the only thing I will be doing. Plus I'm going to have some properties as well. One is to get the access token, string, and one more to get the refresh token. These are going to be used when I need to set the headers, or if I need to send a request for a refresh token. So these are some of the things I'm going to implement within this protocol, and then once I have included it over here, I need to implement those. So that's done. You have the tokens here available. Right now nothing, so I'm just gonna say return nothing, but I'm gonna replace it whatever we are gonna use as the get tokens needs to actually send something back. So get tokens, we already have a model called import our models. We already have a models for token. I'm just gonna return that for get tokens. So let this return a token data model which we have defined. it has nothing but the email, access token, refresh token, and all those things. So that's what we have. So that's what this is going to return. So save is similarly going to have get tokens is going to return token data. So save is pretty much going to save within the user defaults all these values which needs to be returned. So token data does not have an implementation yet, so I'm gonna just keep it as fatal error. Once we have the implementation, it's going to be working fine. So first thing, let's start with saving. So before that, what do I need? I just need that I can make this as a private shared one. So I can create an init, make it private, and create a singleton out of this. Singleton user settings service is a singleton for me, and I'm going to define some keys for these. Private let email or something I'm going to store. Key is going to be email. Similarly, I need to have something called access token. Then refresh token. Then finally, I also need something to check for expires in when is the token going to expire. It's an int value which I get from the server. This we are going to implement pretty soon, because I do see in Alamo Fire's implementation they are coming up with something called okay, this is again going to be a string. The value is going to be int. So the key is going to be a string. So I'm seeing in their documentation that they are coming up with some implementation where you can actually check this expires in. I was just going through their documentation. A new implementation has come where I think it's called authentication or authorization interceptor or something, which is pretty interesting. It's a new feature they are rolling out right now. I don't know how to implement that. I'm still checking that, and that's something where this expires in comes into picture, where they are checking it for like whether it is already expired, or if it's like within 5 minutes of expiration, they trigger something like a request to actually again refresh it. So that's an interesting implementation they are coming up, but I don't know how it's being done yet. I'm just still going through their documentation, but we are just keeping this for that later reference. Like we need to use this once they come back with that implementation. It's already there. I just need to go through that documentation and implement it. So maybe I can take that up in the next or future episodes. So I'll come back with that. But then right now we have this, and let's implement this. So we have the keys available right now. Now let's do the access part. We don't have anything yet saved, so still we can say user defaults dot standard dot value for this. So it's going to be a string value if it is access token, string for this token, access token. And similarly for refresh token, it's going to be the refresh token. So I can just fetch that access or refresh token. It's going to be, I'm gonna just return an empty value if it is not there. So it's anyway an invalid one. I'm just returning that. So that's my refresh and access token. Plus get tokens is anyway going to return a token data. I think I need to make things public. I don't have anything where I can. So let's go and make things, create an init for this. Init public init, and pass email access token refresh token, and the expires in, which is an int self.email self dot access token, self dot refresh token, and the expires in value. Expires in. So that's my public init, so which I can right now use to return. So I can fetch all of these, let's similar to however I'm doing it here, 4 of those values. Let's say email. It's not yet saved, but still I'm just gonna keep it like this. Access token. Once you have it, you will get that value. Otherwise, it's always going to send this empty value. Refresh token. Refresh token. And finally, the expires in. Let expires in. That's going to be an integer value, so keep that in mind. Integer. Cannot convert. This should be integer, so it's just saying. Okay, now I can just return a token data using this. So I have this email, access token, refresh token, and expires in. 4 values, returning that. Cannot be a nil, it says. Good. So that's my return part for the token data. Now comes the, even we can implement this simply, like, okay, let's do the saving part now. So all that we need is, let's say you okay, get tokens is fine. Save tokens is actually going to receive the whole user object. I guess that's what we do. Okay, token data is enough because token data has all the information which you need. So I'm gonna say token data is what we will get from the server. So let's include that in the API protocol. Token data, yeah. And I'm going to receive that and set it for these things. So you standard dot add for set value for set value for email. That's going to be token data dot email. It's not exposed, we need to expose that. So these things should be public. Save, go back, compile once. Token data dot email for email key. Token data for access token for access token key. Then for refresh token key. Finally for the expires in. Compile. That's your save part. So save is also taken care. Hope it's fine. Expires, refresh, access, email, done. And then let's say a simple clear token is as simple as setting it to it's more like removing the values from it. So I can just say remove object for key, email, all of those, remove object for email, access token, refresh token and expires in. Done. That's a clear token. So we have this whole services ready for consumption. So we can just pass this. Where is that we need to save it? So that's happening within interactor. So let's go to the interactor and plug in this feature. So you can see on sign up or on login, we're doing a save user over here. So this is where we can plug it in. So for that, let's inject this over here, user settings API. I'm just gonna pass and then create an instance over here, private let, not instance, and a reference here, private let self dot user settings equals user settings that I have received. Compile, it's fine. Giving one error for what reason? Okay, because this is now asking for that user settings. So we need to have this as a service here, private let static let user settings equals user settings service instance, which is anyway implementing user settings API, so it's going to accept that. And this is, it does not have an initializer, so we can just call the shared one. Why do we have, okay, it's maybe it's internal, so we need to make it public. That's it. So now your shared will be available. That's it. That's done. No errors. Let's go back and where is that account interactor? Wherever that save is happening, we need to include the token. So you will receive the token over here or use along with the user. So we can always check let token data equals user dot, because it's always not, you're not going to get that token always along with the user. So it's better that you check it, and then you can always call the service user settings dot save. This is where this user token is going to get saved. So on login, we have saved the user login token, so we can always run this and see how it is working. Right now we might have to delete the app right now because we don't have any logout implementation yet, or maybe we can, okay, let's delete and see it's saving or not. I'm gonna go stop this app from running, delete it, delete the app, and then run. Start fishmail.com and password. It should come here. Let's log in. It's coming here, and let's see if it has data. Yes, it has the token data. Like as expected, it comes with the token data that gets stored to the service part where you have set the token values. Simple as that. Token for email access token, refresh token, and expires in is set. Now that is available for, let's say if you want to make a request to the server, let's say if you want to make a request to fetch all the chat rooms or something, that's available now. So that's pretty much done. So what do we do right now? That's done. Saving is done. You need to get the token values. So let's start implementing the chat room section. So that's where this logout will take up at the last point, where once you're done with logging in, if you want to go to the main screen or something, and then you can log out. But right now let's do the fetching of these chat rooms, showing that. And after JWT is going to expire, like I kept it for 5 minutes right now, it's going to expire in 5 minutes. Then that's when we need to trigger the refresh. That logic kicks in. So let's do this first, then the refresh thing, and then we'll do the logout after that. So that's pretty much we'll cover. After the logout, we need to again do some refactoring too. Like I had told, there was a problem with not a problem, but then it's not the optimized way of handling all the callbacks at that point. So I'll go to that once we get to the logout part. So let's start implementing right now the chat rooms in the next episodes that's coming up.